My life purpose is to inspire courage and self-expression and compassion in whomever wants to take me up on that.
Our next guest is one of the year's most provocative and talked about singer.
Alanis Morissette.
Alanis Morissette.
Alanis Morissette.
Alanis
Morissette.
There's nothing more fulfilling than knowing that you're doing what you were meant to do on this earth, and that's honestly how I feel. The concept of fame is an illusion, basically, so as often as I can dispel that illusion, I do. There's a lot of illusion within all of what I do. Well, I'm still here, I'm still alive, still intact. I was happy that I survived, but what was most important to me was that I started thriving again, because survival mode sucks. I had to start anew, because I wasn't dead yet.
You went through a lot of things that I think would have finished off a lot of people.
It finished me off, that I had to start anew, because I wasn't dead yet.
But you survived.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
Yeah, and for me, I was happy that I survived, but what was most important to me was that I started thriving again, because survival mode sucks. The big donkey to me. I've wanted to do what I'm doing right now for a very long time, and there's nothing more fulfilling than knowing that you're doing what you were meant to do on this earth, and that's honestly how I feel. First, when we started, we weren't really sure which direction to go in, but one day we just came up with the decision of, doing dance music, and that's where we are now. It doesn't say that's where we're going to stay, but for now, that's where we are. I love dancing. I've danced since I was 7, and I love writing dance music, so it sort of just happened. I wanna feel your love, right from the bottom of your heart to your head.
5, 6, 7, and 1 and 2. Okay, let me see this. Shut down. Shut down.
The biggest thing that I noticed originally with Alanis was personality. I mean, she's just got this charisma, and I think if you meet her live, which I did a few weeks later, it just sort of reinforced that. But she's got a great voice. She moves well.
I don't laugh at it. I just see it as something, where I was at the time. I wasn't as fearless as I am now, and perhaps not as secure and as open and as unadulterated as I am now. So I just see it as a stage that I was in, and I wish I could sort of hug that person that I was, and just say it's going to be okay.
Do you think the period between Time to Jagged was the 3 years in your life where you really evolved more than any other point in your life?
Those maybe were the most marked changes externally, but as I get older, I think some of the changes are more subtle. But that shift between 19 and 20 or 18 and 20 was pretty big. Maybe that's the way it is with everybody. I don't know. I think most people have some pretty big quantum leaps when they're in their teen years into their 20s. It's a very growthful time.
You as a platinum dance, and it seems to be a polar opposite.
I don't know about polar opposite for me, because it's my perspective. It's just been an evolution for me. It's been time going by and tapping into an honesty that I think I wasn't prepared to do when I was younger. I think moving out on my own, moving to Los Angeles, living there, and just becoming more self-sufficient, more secure and confident, and more prepared to be unadulterated and unafraid, really. That was the catalyst. Without having had the experience that I had here, I would never have gone through whatever it was that I went through, and I probably would never have written this kind of a record.
A lot of what you hear on this record, Jagged Little Pill, are those demos.
And the vocals especially?
And the vocals especially. Yeah, she and Glenn Ballard connected on a creative level.
There was a slap in the face, how quickly I was replaced, and I thinking of me when you
We got together, I knew immediately that there was a real synergy and magic between us, and sure enough, we tapped into it. Just became disheartened with the whole collaborative process, but I had faith for whatever reason. And when I met Glenn, he was just really open and non-judgmental, smart, creative, and we were on the same musical wavelength, so it connected.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. It's the good advice.
The ironic thing about it is that I let go of wanting the external adulation, of wanting the celebrity status, of wanting the fame that when you're young you're led to believe will take away all the pain and will make you, make your self-esteem skyrocket. And then when I let go of that, it was motivated again by what I was originally motivated by, which was songs and the creation of it.
And who would have thought with figures?
The master plan is, I guess, what's happening now, which is worldwide domination, hopefully. And I don't say that facetious. That's always the master plan when you sign, any group.
How did you come to be working with the Maverick label?
I was talking to a whole bunch of different record companies. I sort of resigned myself to the fact that I'd have to sign with a company that wouldn't necessarily understand me until I met Maverick, and they're very artist-driven, so.
And Madonna's been quite supportive. Does she work with you?
She's not really in the creative part of it, but she is very supportive and loves it, so it's good to know.
Alanis is just an incredibly unique talent, and we were really lucky to get her. And I think those kind of artists come along once in a long time.
Is it weird that Jagged's almost 10 years old now?
No, it's weird. Whenever I think of anything that's longer than a day ago at this point, it feels like about 20 years ago. The climate or the world was at a place where they were ready to really embrace the style of singing, songwriting that I was doing.
Is it weird that Jagged's almost 10 years old now?
No, it's weird. Whenever I think of anything that's longer than a day ago at this point, it feels like about 20 years ago. Yeah, in some ways not. I'm happy to see how when I find myself in similar situations that I was in 1995, how I'm handling them differently and how much more comfortable in my own skin I am, less apologetic, less freaked out. I was very overwhelmed during that time, I think understandably.
You live, you learn, you love, you learn, you cry, you laugh, you lose, you learn, you bleed, you learn, you scream, you learn.
There were some people who were so clearly influenced by some of the songs that I was writing that it was really clear. And then I think there's so many people, the majority, I might even have to venture to say, that had nothing, that weren't influenced overly by my songs and were already on their path to expressing themselves that way. And then some that had their own individual expression that may have been heartened or inspired by seeing that there was a place for someone like that person or someone like me in the music world. But I think the climate or the world was at a place where they were ready to really embrace the style of singing, songwriting that I was doing, and that's cool. If there are some women that were inspired by what I was doing and it motivated them to write music and be honest and be stream of consciousness, right on, But there were so many female artists that came out after me that sort of seen as trying to capture something that I had that I think was inaccurate. I think that they were writing. I don't really feel like I can rightly take any sort of credit for the grand movement, really. I happen to have released a record during a time where society in general was open to having females be heard.
You can hear the response, but can you feel the love?
I'm very aware of their energy, and every night's different. Every different city results in a different energy in the room, and people up on stage can feel it. I'm not sure if people in the room can see it if they haven't gone from city to city, but It's nice.
Your eyes stress you out. My sweater's on backwards and inside out. You say how, appropriate. I don't respect to everything today. I don't mean to pick you apart, see, but I can't tell that.
It's a younger crowd. It's a more female crowd, and it's almost like playing with the Beatles. It's insane. There's such a mania when she comes on, and it's crazy.
Her show was like wicked. It was really good. It was awesome. She's just the best. She's the best.
Very Beatlesque, the screams that would be heard when you hit the stage. Why that reaction, do you figure?
There's probably a few things if I'm even to try and figure that one out. I think one of them is just that the Much Music MTV connection, you know? There's the person on the screen that becomes bigger than life, that sort of element. And then some of it, I believe, was them screaming for themselves, you know? It's just exciting to go to a concert and recognize someone and understand the music and have personalized the music to their own lives and then to be in a room with a bunch of people that have done the same. I mean, it's really exciting for me, too, and for everyone. What's wound up being the most gratifying part about all of this is that I may have their attention up there, but I think in an indirect way it's them paying attention to themselves, because when I'm releasing and I'm discussing or singing or going on about whatever I go on about, they themselves are releasing hopefully at the same time. So it becomes a lot about them as well, not just about me up there. I think if it was just about me, that may have been fun when I was younger for it just to be about me and to have my moment. But I don't think I would be having that much fun if it was just about me.
Do you want to be a beacon for people?
I want to be the best person I could possibly ever be for me, and have that result in me contributing to society and to people and to life. Yes.
You were like rocking it. You were like killing it. Like I could see you were feeling it.
Yeah,
it sounded like you were feeling it.
I was so feeling it.
Yeah.
I was just blown away at what a blessed career we all have.
Somebody held up a sign that was so beautiful. I wanted to remember exactly how it was worded, but it said, "Alanis, I am so glad that you are here with me today." It was so sweet.
It definitely has you unites.
It does unite. It's a very generous kind of cool connection. It kills me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. My interaction with people who come to the shows has gotten richer and richer over the last few years. Part of what I have enjoyed doing over the last few years in particular is to show people that whatever it is that they love about me or are inspired by in me, it is ultimately a part of themselves. And that's become a big part of my purpose in continuing to be in the public eye. The only reason why I would see any value in sharing my story publicly would be to show people that they're not alone in whatever emotion that they may be experiencing or feeling at that time.
Your fans are very vocal, very loyal, more so than a lot of artist fans.
I feel a lot of love from people, no question. And I offer as much back as I possibly can. Been able to do that more so through the internet, which is good, but yeah, I feel it.
I think that if you are what you are, people will eventually figure it out. And if they want to see me or anyone as a one-dimensional person, then they're missing out on other facets, and that's their choice, you know. But I think over time, you know, even just listening to the record, I think if you listen to it in its entirety, you will soon come to realize that I'm not solely an angry person.
It wasn't written for the sake of revenge. It was not written for the sake of conveying a message of man-hating. I love men.
You've already won me over, in spite of me, and don't be alarmed if I fall head over feet.
Please welcome the best new artist of '96.
6-time Grammy nominee, Alanis Morissette.
Alanis
Morissette.
I've been trying to downplay the celebrity aspect of it just because the concept of fame is very, well, it's an illusion, basically. So as often as I can dispel that illusion, I do.
There's a lot of illusion within all of what I do.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that comes along with fame that results in frustration and disassociation and disconnection. Like a lot of times, in my past, fame was kind of presented as this, you know, this be-all and end-all in terms of it being able to offer joy and attention and praise and all of these things that we were taught was something to be looked towards. So once I was experiencing it, I realized that none of that was true, and everything that had been true before fame was true after fame. It was only amplified. So amplified also was my sense of disconnection, or the chasm between me and the people that I wanted to connect with the most. So it was up to me to really get back to connection somehow in all kinds of different ways.
There's a lot of mystery surrounding it, and when you really get inside of it and you realize that success as such may not give you what it is promised it would give you, it can be very disheartening but equally exciting, because it allows you to question everything, not just that.
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? It's like rain.
Every possible goal was exceeded in that year and a half. What is there after? Is there any more wonderment left?
There's more wonderment of the authentic kind, as I see it. Like, when all of that superfluous stuff fades away and the illusion is brought out as being exactly that, as being an illusion, then all that I'm really left with is focus on my own soul's evolution, my own life's evolution, and my own, you know, growth as an artist, my own growth as a person. It definitely catapulted me, you know, head on into wanting to contribute and to give back, to just challenge myself in other areas of my life that I had let kind of sit on the back burner for a long time. I see it happening with a lot of people in my life too, where they've reached, you know, a supposed pinnacle in their life, and then they're met with, okay, well, what now? You know, now that I've achieved what I've been working toward for so long, what else is left? And I watch them go through that terrorizing moment of not knowing, and then, you know, entering into different hobbies and contributing and focusing more on relationships and taking their art to what I believe is an even richer or deeper place. You know, that's really yummy to me, to watch someone experience that, and it was definitely scary, but now it's yummy for me to experience it too.
You're so much braver than I gave you credit for.
I feel great about inspiring other people, adoring love. If it's love, I love it because I love people back. It's being put up on a pedestal has always made me feel a little uncomfortable, because I love sharing power with people. I feel uncomfortable when someone gives it to me because they have it themselves and I want to share it with them. So
You've always said happiness is not equated with money and success. You were guilty of it years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Since then you realize that's not true. But do you ever catch yourself buying into it in small doses every now and then?
Having fun with it, certainly. They don't necessarily, happiness doesn't necessarily mean money and external success, but it's not exclusive of it. So I can be happy and have an abundant amount of money and experience fame and experience, you know, fill in the blank, whatever is typically seen as successful, but have an altogether different take on what success means. Diamonds. I love diamonds. So there was a period of time where I thought they were superfluous and ridiculous, and, you know, we could be saving small countries from starvation instead of buying them. And then I realized that why don't you save small countries from starving and buy diamonds? One can believe, I think, in money not being everything, and also have a lot of it and enjoy it. I think money's great. What a great idea. What a fun thing, you know? But I'm still okay without it, and I always have been.
Thank you, Sarah.
I don't respond very well to people saying you can't, or that's not how it's supposed to be done, or the word should, or not supposed to, or can't. I have an adverse reaction to those concepts. It's very courageous in some ways, I think, to write a song, but it's a little cowardly if it ends there.
it's hard to write lyrics. It's scary. You gotta look in. You gotta go in. And that's scary.
How about getting off of these antibiotics?
I had, quote-unquote, achieved the proverbial ultimate achievement that we think is the brass ring, you know? And once you get there, you see all the the truth that lies within it, and you see all the illusion that lies within it. And for a while, I was just immersed in the illusion, and I just was so disheartened and so disillusioned. And again, all that was really left after all was said and done was just the urge to create music, create anything for that matter, express.
Thank you, India. Thank you, terror. Thank you, disillusionment. Thank you, frailty. Thank you, consequence. Thank you, silence.
It was a period of time where I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go through what I had gone through as far as what comes along with writing a record and releasing it. Obviously music was something that I will always and have always held dear to me, but everything that came along with what happened with Jagged Little Pill was a little overwhelming, and I hadn't yet processed it, so until I did, I don't think I was ready to jump back in again, so that's why I took a year and a half off.
I think I've gone through different phases of surrender. You know, after Jagged Little Pill, there was a huge surrender time, different breakups. I mean, the only way that I've been able to keep going is by surrendering to things and having faith. It's that combination of being surrendered but really engaged and faith-filled at the same time.
4 million copies is very successful, and when I read, well, it wasn't as successful as Jagged Little Pill, reading that, you want to strangle the person who wrote that.
Right. 28 or 30 million to whatever amount was supposed. I think it was like 7 million. You know, those two numbers relative to each other, there's a huge gap, but as a separate entity, it kind of is what it is.
Do you care about selling goods anymore?
I never did. My concern isn't even about that. My concern is about, does each record really exemplify where I'm at? My main motivation is to write songs that really encapsulate a moment in time. And once I've done that, it's a success to me. So I want to, you know, have it be as big or as small or as medium as it's supposed to be, with my feeling like I'm still being exactly who I am. And I'm not overly precious about a record having to be something.
Dear Marcus, you rock my world. You had a charismatic way about you with the women.
People love your songwriting, which means they love you.
I think it also means that they love themselves. Because if they relate to it and it feels good to them, it means that on some level they're courageous enough in that little moment to look at themselves, which is the heartening part of all this for me, I think. I'm not very precious about it in that I just write it and it's a moment and that's it. You know, I don't belabor it or go over everything with a fine-tooth comb, whether on a production level or on a conceptual level, really.
Is there a risk, though, of giving away too much? Do you ever feel that you should have held back?
No, I think when I wrote Jagged Little Pill, I had apprehension a little bit. But then after that record was released and we toured it live for a long time, I just thought, well, I'm still here, I'm still alive, still intact, so I'm just going to keep going, and it feels really great to be that way, not only in art or with music, but just in general, because there's no lying. I don't have to lie anymore.
I love you when you dance, when you're freestyle trance, so pure, such an expression.
You have laid yourself bare lyrically, too.
Basically, I talked myself out of being afraid of being that honest, because I guess the alternative was to censor things and to tell half-truths.
Yeah.
And I vowed to myself that I'd never do that again.
You don't have to lie when you're just speaking the truth or sharing where money is going or sharing who you are. There's nothing to lie anymore, and to me, that is the ultimate way to live.
There is something to be said for boundaries, though.
I love boundaries and I respect them, and I just believe there's a distinct difference between secrecy and privacy. I respect privacy, I totally do, my own and anybody else's, but I'm not into secrecy.
Like, I'm sure it's easier to write literal, but it's harder to do it.
It requires a little bit of courage. There's nothing to hide behind.
Just reaching a point in my life where, as best as I possibly can right now, I want to speak as honestly and as transparently as I can, and as each year goes by, I am able to do it more and more so.
I've never written for the sake of revenge by any means, written for the sake of my feeling liberated and transparent. My goal in life is to be as transparent and as authentic as I possibly can be. So I still have a ways to go in my personal life. I feel like I'm quite there in my songwriting, but in my personal life, I have ways to go.
You say you don't write songs out of revenge, but do you think that's why a lot of people gravitate toward your songs, is because a lot of people have these shared experiences and they have never heard it put into words before?
Sometimes, I think. Sometimes people hear their own story in the songs, and it can be empowering to hear truth be spoken, particularly truths that have been denied or repressed for a length of time. And I feel the same way when I read something like that, or I see someone being really authentic. It's an inspiration to me. So I think at times it may serve as an affirmer for other people, definitely.
How can you be so personal about relationships that go wrong?
I also am personal about relationships that go right, too. I define myself and I am aware of who I am based on my interactions with people or places or things or whatever. So it's in relationships that I'm able to define myself and ultimately provide an opportunity for someone else to define themselves or heal themselves or understand themselves. So I see relationships as opportunities. I think music has been something that I've turned to many times in many times of questioning or confusion. I find writing an amazing way for me to achieve a clarity of sorts in my life. Songwriting was good in that sense.
I have faith in the face of these morning.
It's hard to write lyrics. It's scary. You gotta look in. You gotta go in. And that's scary. This is a heady song once again.
A lot of times I won't write for a while and I'll just journal. And a lot of what it is that I want to ultimately write songs about will become apparent as I flip through my diary pages. And I just kind of take the essence of what it is that I'm writing about and turn it into a 3 or 4 minute song.
Must be strangely exciting to watch the sky scroll.
I think it's a lot harder for an artist to actually go to the person that they want to talk to and communicate fearlessly. And I think I can do it in a song. It's very cathartic. It's very therapeutic for me, but it is a little cowardly. So I write because I have to get a lot out of my system, and I'm not in environments all the time where I can do that.
Honest songwriting. Therapeutic for you, yes. Also therapeutic for the person that you have in mind.
That's such a sweet thing to say. I mean, it would be great if the song itself did the dirty work for me, but ultimately a song for me at this point I see is just, it crystallizes something, it makes it clear, and it's got the marching orders encrypted in it, meaning that if I write a song about a relationship that hasn't been resolved, once I finish the song, it clarifies it, but ultimately I have to actually follow through and go deal with it or talk with the person ultimately. So it's very courageous in some ways, I think, to write a song, but it's a little cowardly if it ends there, for me anyway.
You really throw the rules away when it comes to songwriting. You'll fit a lot of words into a sentence that most writers, established writers, would say, no, you can't put that many words into a sentence.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I love the structure of what a song is typically structured as, but I also love throwing it out. And I don't respond very well to people saying you can't, or that's not how it's supposed to be done, or the word should, or not supposed to, or can't. I have an adverse reaction to those concepts, and sometimes to the point where I just want to, give the middle finger and say, just leave me alone, I'm going to do it almost rebelliously in spite of how you're telling me I should do it. I'll be like a petulant little child and do it the opposite way on purpose, so.
Do you think that's been the key to everything thus far, that attitude?
I don't even really think about what the effects are of it, really. All I know is that I feel much better. I feel much more comfortable in my own skin when I'm being honest about how it is that I want to live, let alone write. So it works for me.
Must be somewhat hard-telling to watch shepherd lead shepherd. But you're not alone. You're uninvited.
So where are the Grammys and the Junos and all the other awards?
They were in this closet under my stairs, but then I cleaned all that out, and I think they're in storage.
You ungrateful.
You ungrateful little whore.
I know it's not about the award, so what is it about then?
Oh, it's about singing, and performing, and spreading the good news,
That I would be loved.
You must get asked to do a lot of benefits, and you probably have to say no a lot more than you said yes to them. I know that Tibetan freedom was a big one for you, something you really wanted to do and be a part of.
Inconsolable thing, how I do love London.
Is there a commonality between the ones you've said yes to?
That's a great question. I think just the human condition. It's a tough thing for me to want to take part in one certain specific thing. Like there's a period of time where I thought, okay, I really want to align myself with one charity in particular, but it was impossible for me to do that because I believe in the human condition, I believe in the environment, I believe in our health, I believe in our psychological health, I believe in our, our different spiritual takes. I mean, I believe in all of it to the point where it would be impossible for me to just choose one. So I think the thread of continuity is just loving the human condition and being fascinated by it, really, and having compassion and empathy on some level. The United Nations recognizing any sort of contribution that I would do is very honoring and very affirming, really, and inspiring, if nothing else. I just feel very inspired to continue to do more. And at the same time, I can also say that millions of people I know are doing as much as I'm doing in varying forms. And, if I'm to accept that kind of award, certainly I'm accepting it on behalf of anyone who's contributed in that way. I happen to do it publicly and some of it privately, and I know a lot of people that just do it privately all the time who just kill me, who are just so inspiring and beautiful.
Getting involved with just so many things. I'm just wondering if you get these phone calls and if you ever say no.
Oh yeah, I say no all the time. I feel like I definitely say no way more than I say yes. That goes to show how many charities and organizations there are out there. There's thousands.
Is it a weekly request for your name or for your participation for these things?
A daily request.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have more energy than other times, so if I have a lot of energy, if I'm not in the studio, if I'm not touring, I often channel my energy into that. And then when I start touring, it really does, touring itself aligns with what my life purpose is anyway, so there's the spiritual activism, there's the environmental, all of it really is spiritual activism to me. It's easy to have compassion for someone who's a sympathetic character, but it's tougher to have compassion, I think, when there's a real disagreement about a way of life or a belief. So that's where compassion is needed the most. And the more I take care of myself, the more that wellspring is sort of full. And when I don't take care of myself, I have no patience for anybody else's issues. So that's a real incentive for me to take care. Whenever I'm faced with a decision to be made, if I reference why it is I'm here, the decision process is made easy. So if, my life purpose is to inspire courage and self-expression and compassion in whomever wants to take me up on that, then it'll inform me pretty quickly about what to say yes and no to.
So where are the Grammys and the Junos and all the other awards?
They were in this closet under my stairs, but then I cleaned all that out, and I think they're in storage. I think they're in storage now.
You ungrateful.
You ungrateful little whore. No, I'm grateful for it in the sense of it being recognition, but I don't believe in the concept of competition. I don't believe in the concept of competition with art. Friendly competition in sports, sign me up. I think it's the most fun and funny thing ever. But competition when it comes to, art being compared, that's like saying yellow is better than green or pink is better than blue. It's like impossible to do. So in that sense, I have issues with it and inner conflict about it.
I know it's not about the award, so what is it about then?
Oh, it's about singing and performing and spreading the good news,
I've seen them busting roads and forums and overbeats. How will this take that?
We beget how we're perceived, positively and negatively in some ways. Some of it is all projection on people's parts, but there's elements of, how I'm perceived by people that I've created.
She's not always sad.
Right.
She's not always mean.
Right.
Miserable.
Right.
Women are not objects. We are not just our bodies, ladies. We are our spirits. We are Armani.
It's hard to write humor in a song. I mean, it can be done, but it turns into more of a comedian kind of record or a novelty record. In this, there's a lot of footage that shows different parts of my humor that otherwise would not have been able to have been shared in the song, so that's fun.
What about me heart? What about me kindness? What about me humor? And she says, what humor?
My life is so filled with dichotomies, and I think life in general is, you know, that I'm able to be so wound up and intense and inward-looking and at the same time be the hugest flake who is so zoned out and checked out and totally, you know, ditzy, you know. So I can be all those things, and it really depends when you catch me. It's what my, you know, flagship message has been my whole life, and it's crystallizing to be even more so now, which is just allowing the bothness to be there. Why do we have to just be strong and capable? Why can't we be completely incompetent and weak, too? Just throw that in the mix.
Yeah, you are serious. Yeah, you have a spiritual side to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're off the wall, though.
Yeah?
We are not just sexual objects.
A bit weird.
Yeah.
It's crap.
Humorous. You're a human being.
Hey, there you go. Figure.
This could be a messy, I don't seem to mind. Oh, don't go tell everybody. Overlook this supposed crime.
It's that leap that you take when you just literally jump off the cliff and you haven't landed anywhere yet. First few times that I jumped off that conceptual cliff, it was terrorizing, but now that I've jumped off so many times, I don't even think about it anymore. I just know the wings are going to appear and you'll be flying and it'll be fine. No, I wrote it and produced it alone. I think what I wanted to do was return to writing alone again, and producing alone was something that I just felt myself naturally evolving into. It was a natural next step with having done it with a few people throughout my lifetime, and it's a natural next step.
Okay, guys, the demo's cool, and you can completely do a massive departure from it if you so choose.
I was very excited to write and to produce on my own this time, just to see if I could do it, really. It was more of an exploration than anything.
Here we go.
This could be a messy, but you don't seem to mind.
What she does is she has a tendency of throwing people in a room and watching the kinetic energy work itself up.
And once all those people are in a room, the rest is really just kind of getting out of the way and letting it be recorded on tape or whatever else.
There is a lot of detail, and there's a lot of subtleties, and there's a lot of emotion in the lyrics. And you really have to dig in with her, you know, because where she's coming from, you got to do a little homework. I mean, there were a few times there's, you know, a couple of words that, you know, I had to look up.
I know I won't keep on playing the victim. These precious illusions in my head did not let me down when I was defenseless.
Writing alone was something that I just happened upon, really. While I was writing, I was open to the concept of collaborating, but it became quite apparent 6 or 7 songs in that I may not be doing that this time. While I am open to sharing my songs with as many people as I possibly can, I would never do it at the cost of my own integrity or the cost of my own peace of mind, ever. Kind of, it's frustrating sometimes to have those people in my face. They really, their presence bug me sometimes, especially when I'm writing, so I just kind of keep them at arm's length and keep them out of the room. And that was the challenge in producing and writing alone this time. Because normally I would look to a producer to serve as a buffer of sorts. And keep those people at bay, and this time around there was nobody there to keep anybody at bay, so it's a lot more anger, I think, while I was writing this record at just wanting people to fuck off. Get away from me while I'm writing and leave me alone. So, yeah.
I have the bravest heart that you've ever seen, and you never met anyone who's as positive as I am. Sometimes you see everything, you see every part, you see all my life.
One of the biggest changes over the last year is that there's just so much more balance in my life. And as I get older, things become less and less precious and more sacred. So during the writing of this record, I'm a lot more comfortable, not only in my own skin, but as a producer and as a creator. The last couple of years, especially, just realizing that things are sacred, certainly, but not precious. You know, so not being as controlling of things, not being as ultimately controlling my experience with my own self is that I'm afraid. You know, so there's just less fear.
You want things to be less precious and more sacred. The two words to me are almost synonymous.
Right. Precious to me, and my definition of it, means, you know, holding on to things, being attached to it, being, you know, invested in it. You know, so sacred to me means that I'm humbled by it and I'm filled with gratitude toward it, and I see how special it is, but I'm not holding on to it. You know, I'm not attached to it continuing to be that way, or I'm not invested in any sort of outcome or it, you know, staying stagnant. You know, I'm just enjoying it more, actually. In English, it means I'm enjoying myself.
And you love my dark.
You love my dark?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
The last couple of years, I've been working toward being whole rather than good. You know, good to me, trying to be the good, perfect girl. Not only was it exhausting, but it's impossible, as I've come to find.
By whose standards?
By parental, societal, my own. Ultimately, it turns into my own standards. But being whole is a really viable aspiration because it's possible. So I can be good and bad, smart and stupid, strong and weak, greedy and generous. And if I can love all those parts and get the gifts of some of the more challenging ones, it just integrates it, and I'm much more peaceful.
I wanna be naked, running through the streets. I wanna invite this so-called chaos that you think I cannot be.
Do you think recording artists are getting enough of the money being made on their music?
No, not at all. It's changing, though. I know that there's some relationships that are being established directly with the internet and artists, and I think that that has shifted the dynamic to being more of a partnership. I mean, ultimately, it is a partnership. You know, artists put their blood, sweat, and tears into creating a song, and then there's a whole machine, for lack of a better term, that helps them in sharing it with whomever's open to hearing it. So it really is, you know, a team effort. So everyone being compensated for their contribution. You know, and then it comes down to, I mean, the word fair is brought up all the time, and I crack up because it's such a subjective word, you know. But keeping it equitable and keeping it that people's efforts are being reflected in what they're being paid. Money is a form of, you know, is a show of acknowledgement for effort being made, or it's a form of gratitude, really. So I think there's a way that everyone can get a piece that reflects their contribution. Do I think that record companies and artists have it really nailed to the point where it reflects everyone's contribution? Absolutely not. But it's on the way.
But I resist you, love, no matter.
People are looking at you now as that statesperson, and that couldn't have happened a couple years ago.
Right.
It's taken this time to get to this point in your career to have that respect, almost.
Yeah, it takes time, I think.
Can you feel that? Can you feel?
I do. I started feeling it a little while ago. And I think it's a rite of passage. I think every artist kind of segues into it after a few years of being consistent. And, you know, it takes time for people who come to the shows or who listen to the music to really get to know someone and to see that year after year there's a consistency, even if it's just in letting it be what that moment is. You know, letting every record be, you know, a snapshot of that moment and have it be authentic. So, yeah. I encounter that willingness every morning. Every morning I wake up and I say, are you willing to walk away from this? And the answer is always absolutely. It's that leap that you take and you just literally jump off the cliff and you haven't landed anywhere yet. The first few times that I jumped off that conceptual cliff, it was terrorizing, but now that I've jumped off so many times, I don't even think about it anymore. I just know the wings are going to appear and you'll be flying and it'll be fine. So So now it's almost like, let's just do it all the time. Now I don't have to know where I'm going, I can just jump. Every moment is pretty sacred to me when I'm awake, and a lot of times when I'm asleep. But when I'm really awake and focusing, I'm pretty touched by what an incredible position I'm in and what a blessing this lifetime is. And I'm blown away and humbled by being able to do what I do.
Well, I can't even think of a better life to have.
Thank you.